morning is going to be the approval of the minutes from our October 14th, 2015.
I move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Hearing no opposition, the motion passes. The minutes are approved. Our second order of business is public comments this morning. We allow everyone who wishes to speak 3 minutes to comment on any issues that they feel are relevant before this commission. So I invite anyone who's interested at this time. Seeing none, we will continue to proceed. The third order of business is the request for opinions. This morning, Ms. Diaz-Greco.
Good morning, Commissioners. I observed that Ms. Alice Bravo has not arrived yet. And she has advised us that she would be appearing today. Perhaps we can leave the RQO to a bit later after we've gone through the inquiries and the Section 8s, etc., and that would give her a bit of time to arrive.
I mean, it's the next order of business, so if she's not here, I would want her to understand that you have to be on time. But if you're requesting that we put it off,
Yes,
go
we
ahead.
did.
and
Okay.
put it off.
For a few minutes, or if not, we can proceed whatever the Commission wants.
Okay, let's go ahead and go to Section 8.
Yes.
Section 8, Ms. Diaz-Greco.
I'm happy to report that we are starting to see this process functioning more smoothly after a new third-party administrator was hired by the county to manage this particular set of programs from the housing department. It's a very large one. So the following employees, there are 4 this month, that are either county or Jackson Health System employees, are landlords who are seeking to contract with the county under federally funded Section 8 programs in order to provide their properties as Section 8 landlords under that program. The standard under the code is that employees are not prohibited, they're not overall prohibited in contracting with the county, that the prohibition is clear that they cannot contract with their own department. In this case, we have overseen all of these applications, and none of these employees are employed by the housing department. Consequently, our recommendation is that they do not have a conflict to contract to become Section 8 landlords.
Any questions from commissioners?
No. No.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. Section 8 request are approved. Our next order of business this morning will be the summary of public housing and community development housing assistance inquiries. Ms. Diaz-Greco.
Yes, we work a lot with housing, as you can tell, given that the code provides a compliance section, a large compliance section. This particular section is under a specific exemption under the code for C55 that does provide that otherwise eligible employees and their immediate family members may seek assistance from housing, again, as long as they are not involved in the oversight, administration, or allocation of any of these programs. The employees that are listed before, and as you can see, there are quite a few of them. We are at 46 now. Before we started this compliance process in the last year, we would receive perhaps 4 or 5 of these. There was no formal process to identify employees who were seeking to, county employees who were seeking to contract with public housing. A new process, as the Commission knows, was put into place about a year ago, and we can see the effects that we've gone from about 4 or 5 to year-to-date 46 of these opinions. We go through and we verify that none of these employees are involved in the administration of the programs that they are seeking to participate in, and consequently, we are recommending approval for these employees to participate in the particular housing programs they are applying for.
Very well. Do you have any questions from the commissioners? It's time for the request. Hearing none, our next order of business will be the summary of public housing and community development. I apologize.
Summary of inquiries.
That's what we just did, right?
No.
Oh, we just did the summary of inquiries, I'm sorry. The summary of public housing and community development housing assistance.
Yes, and
inquiries is now.
we'll go, yeah, that's right.
I apologize.
No. That's how it is on the agenda.
So we're where we need to be, so it's fine. As usual, we highlight some of the previous inquiries for the commissioners. One that I would like to highlight is 15-216. We have a lot of issues regarding outside employment. This is one that is fairly standard, where county employees do not have prohibited conflicts of interest when they are performing their outside employment in other counties and in matters that are unrelated to their county employment. And this 15-216 is an example of that. In addition to that, we also wanted to highlight 15-224, which deals with S5, which is members of a technical team that appear for an oral presentation before a county certification, evaluation, selection, or technical review, just for the purpose of that selection process, need not register as lobbyists if they don't lobby, that they are required to file an affidavit with the clerk of the board. This is an issue that's been coming up quite a bit recently.
Ask you a question?
Yes.
Which is why I said it the way I said it. What's the difference between your monthly summary of inquiries and the summary of public housing inquiries? Because they all appear under one category.
Yes, what occurred is that the housing inquiries are a specific type of inquiry, a specific type of opinion.
No, I understand that. I'm just saying in terms of the organization of the book here, we have a summary of inquiries.
Yes.
And then we have a summary of public housing and community development,
Yes.
housing assistance inquiries.
If you notice,
They all fall under the same category within our agenda. We have a new commissioner. I want to make sure that we're doing things so that he understands, because it appears that are they duplicative?
We have
no, they're all inquiries, but the housing inquiries are cataloged as,
Yes, I'm sorry, go ahead.
they're all inquiries, but the housing inquiries are numbered differently as HINQs rather than INQs for two reasons. Number one is because it allows us to track that compliance process and to see in effect how many of them are being requested of the commission. And secondly, it would be tremendously duplicative to include this in your regular inquiry summary, because it would just continue to say the same thing, that this person does not have a conflict because they otherwise do not administer this program. You'd have like 46 of those basically in your inquiry. So they have been given a separate numbering under HINQs rather than INQs. But they are both the opinions, informal opinions that we provide in the fire.
They're both inquiries that have been made to the commission. I just want to make sure, especially with light of the fact that we have a new commissioner, that we're making it clear, because the book that we receive would confuse, because there's two separate entries on our agenda. So I want to make sure that it's clear.
And 5 is basically monthly summary of non-housing inquiries in your agenda, right? And then the second one would be housing inquiries.
Monthly summary of inquiries. It really is the inquiries and the summary of public housing. Those two are the ones that are together. And then section 8, those are again a specific
Right,
type of opinion.
Section 8, we know. That's
Right.
totally separate and apart, and we already approved that.
That is correct.
What the question for the commissioner was, the difference between, which is the question I had, between your summary of inquiries, which is agenda number 5, and your summary of public housing and community development housing assistance inquiries, which is number 6.
I understand.
And in the book,
Yes.
They're
And I
not
think
very
that perhaps
clear.
we might have gone out of sequence today, but generally those are both under the same tab. One are inquiries that are given on general other sections of the code. The housing inquiries are the ones that are specific under C55.
that was
I
the
know.
question we answered.
Yeah.
I want to make sure that the new commissioner understands. That's exactly it. So the answer to your question was yes.
I ask a lot of leading questions.
And I note that Ms. Bravo is at the commission meeting.
It's okay, but
And so I
we're,
wanted to let you know.
are we, first, I'm in charge,
Absolutely.
right? So let's make sure that we're finished first on number 6. Are we finished with those inquiries?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any questions from my commissioners regarding number 6 on our agenda?
No.
Okay, very well. So now we will return to the request for opinions, which is number 3 on our agenda, for those of you that are following along. RQO 15-06, Alice Bravo. Go ahead, proceed, Ms. Dean.
Yes, Again, good morning, and apologies for the bit of a confusion with the agenda this morning. We brought this RQO to the commission previously. The commission expressed a desire to ask further questions from Ms. Bravo regarding this issue of what interest or ownership or other types of interest her spouse might or might not have in Stantec Corporation, the corporation that is at issue in this particular case. Ms. Bravo is here today, and again, just as a recap, the issue before the commission is whether a prohibited conflict of interest would exist under the county ethics code at sections 2-11.1 C and D, which both deal with limitations on contracting with the county, where the spouse of the director of Miami-Dade County Transit Department, who is Ms. Bravo, is employed by a county vendor which contracts with certain divisions of the Public Works and Waste Management Department, and some of those divisions, or all, are scheduled to have been merged with the Transit Department. The commission's recommendation, based on the current writing, the current way that the code is written, is that the county ethics code prohibits a county department head or his or her immediate family member from entering into a contract with the county only if the immediate family member has an ownership interest in that entity, which was what the commissioners had questions about. And that term, financial interest, has been interpreted by the COE as an investment or ownership interest. Our understanding is that the transit director spouse does not have an ownership interest in this county vendor, and consequently, under the code as it is currently written, no prohibited conflict of interest would occur. And if the commission obviously has further questions, Ms. Bravo is here to answer the questions that the commissioners expressed at the first reading of this memo.
Ms. Bravo, do you want to come up? Good morning, ma'am. If you could give us your name and your title and your address.
Good morning. My name is Alice Bravo. I'm currently the director of Miami-Dade Transit. And
what is your address?
at work at 701 Northwest First Court.
And regarding this issue that's come before us, can we put it in simple terms? What opinion are you looking for from us?
Well, I was asked to get a formal opinion from the commission. So the question is whether or not the firm my husband is employed at should pursue projects at Miami-Dade Transit and the Public Works Department, which will soon be merged under me.
And when will that merge? When will the merger take place?
We're taking a first and second reading of a budget amendment ordinance to the county commission in the month of December.
Any questions for the commission?
Yes. On behalf of our missing commissioners, does your husband's salary reflect any bonuses based on income of the Stantec? Does he get any bonuses on an annual basis based on their profits?
He has a fixed salary, but he is eligible to receive a bonus.
And are those bonuses, am I not, is this not on?
The lights on.
Yep. Okay. Oh, it wasn't on, sorry. Does he get a bonus based on their income?
Well, it's based on the performance of the firm overall, and this is a multinational company with about 30,000 employees.
Because that was a concern of one of our commissioners who was unable to be here today, that even though, excuse me, there's not an ownership as required by the code, that there has a potential for a conflict if he's getting bonuses based on their income, and their income is going to be based on contracts that your department or your newly created department or sub-departments or divisions or however this new monolith is going to work is participating in.
This is, like I said, a large multinational firm. It's publicly traded. They have, I think, about 30,000 employees. So
Internationally?
yes, so they're Canadian based.
Okay, and how many are in the, is it a local office in Miami-Dade County? where your husband works?
Correct, there's a local office with over 100 employees.
Okay. And how many in his department?
Well, his particular group, I believe, is about 50 employees, and they pursue projects at FDOT.
When you say his particular group, you mean that he heads up that group?
Yes, it's the highway design group.
And what is his position? He's a manager?
Senior
Senior principal.
Correct. Senior principal.
Doesn't
Which,
that-
in
doesn't that
his-
make him an owner?
No, in his firm, that basically means he's allowed to execute contracts of a certain threshold. So he has signature authority.
But he's not an owner in any way?
Well, since this is a publicly traded corporation, each employee, I think, receives a small amount of shares. So his percentage might be 0.001% or less of the entire corporation.
But don't you consider that ownership?
Well, that is some ownership, but obviously there are different definitions.
I mean, if I own 0.001% of Coca-Cola, I'd be doing all right, wouldn't I?
I have no idea.
Well, I mean, my point is even if you own a small percentage of a big company, you could be doing very well. You're still an owner, would you not?
You could own 10 shares of a corporation with 10 million outstanding shares.
Yeah, now certainly there's a lot of factors to consider, but my point is you're still considered an owner in that company and you're still entitled to receive profits.
But assuming our memo is correct,
Dividends?
I'm sorry, assuming our memo is correct, the ownership has to exceed 10% as opposed to a minuscule number. But that brings me back to my original questions on behalf of the missing commissioner who's expert in this field, and that is whether or not there's a potential for a conflict. If it's not only a monetary bonus, if he's getting shares of stock based on their profits and the like, that there has the potential for conflict in dealing with your newly created department.
So you're,
I'm making a statement, not necessarily asking a question, but I don't know what the answer to that is, and unfortunately, Commissioner Nardine is, I guess, out of the country on one of her trips, is at a conference someplace.
There is one point that I think could be raised on the issue you raised. As I understand it, as a salaried employee, senior principal at Stantec, his job is to work with state and federal, not county. I know that Stantec does contracts, but his particular position is not to interact with the county. And that would include, I presume, the newly formed Department of Transportation.
his particular specialty is highway design projects with the state.
So his division never appears in front of the Miami-Dade County Commission?
No.
Okay.
It's at least a consideration. Yeah.
I don't have any more questions.
And again, I was asked to seek a formal opinion, so I'm here to seek a formal opinion, and I'm not looking for a particular answer either way.
No, and when we had our first discussion 2 meetings ago, the 2 commissioners who were not here felt that it was in your best interest to have you here to answer a series of questions that they had. Unfortunately, my memory is not good enough to remember all of those questions.
Well, I recently listened to the tape, and
Okay.
and I know there was a discussion, and basically at the county, there's 2 different approaches, I guess, for consultants pursuing work. One is the economic development pool, and that's a process by which consultants merely submit their credentials or qualifications, and they're considered in this, they call it like a Rolodex pool, and basically as assignments come up in different departments throughout the county, whoever's next in the Rolodex is given that assignment for that type of work. Then there are larger scale projects that would have a standalone procurement for design, for
How many
example.
divisions are you going to have in your newly created department?
Well, together with Transit and Public Works, there's over 4,000 employees, and I would say over a dozen divisions.
I expect you to know everybody's name.
I'm working on it. But for example, in Miami-Dade Transit, there's an administrative division that's just responsible for all the budget, finance, federal grants, reimbursements, etc. Then there's the actual operations of bus, people mover, transit. And then there's the engineering design where we do the corridor studies and, which is the next light rail project to be built, et cetera. And the public works, it's a different structure completely, because basically there's sections responsible for survey services throughout the county, maintenance of all the roads, bridges, et cetera. And then within that whole group, then there's a smaller group that handles design services for milling resurfacing projects or roadway widening projects.
Thank you.
No, I just, comment is that, I had, I'm late to this game, but I wasn't at the last hearing. I did listen to the audio. And I guess I have a chance or have a perspective of looking from outside in a little bit on the issue. And it seems to me that you have like several different points that have to be addressed. One is the question of direct or indirect benefit. Direct is easy, indirect is the hard one. Because you can tail it down to Mrs. Bravo's husband's situation, where there's an argument that at some minutia level, at some level, low level, there is an indirect benefit. I mean, but is that where we're going to draw the line, or do we draw it where the person has personal involvement or doesn't? So I brought that up earlier. And also the ownership question, that one has been dealt with before by, especially with publicly traded companies, by having a number. If it's 10%, 5%, where the person has lower than that threshold, then they're just considered not an owner for purpose of conflict. So these are, from outside looking in, coming late to the game, this is how I see this issue playing out.
I do have one more question, and I'll explain after I ask why I'm asking it. Do you use your husband's last name, or is Bravo your maiden name?
Bravo's my maiden name.
Okay, so that if your husband happened to sign something that went across somebody's desk that comes under your 4,000 people, it's not going to say Bravo, and at least on the basis of the last name, they're not going to say, oh, it's the chief's husband.
He takes quite offense to being called Mr. Bravo.
I just wanted to make that clear as well.
And another distinction I wanted to draw, in the county, we have an ISD department, internal services, and basically they handle the majority of the procurements at the department. They manage this EDP pool, et cetera, and they handle procurement, the selection, taking the award of a contract to county commission, et cetera.
Okay.
As a follow-up, just in this circumstance that we're talking about today, he would not be likely to be signing something or addressing something to the county because his particular position is related to FDOT or state and federal, perhaps.
Correct. State.
Thank you.
And is that exclusive? Or are there times where some people under him would be before the county?
No, there are other groups, so there's a municipal group, and those are the folks that pursue projects with municipalities or the county, and that's separate from him.
And that would be where the indirect benefit could come in.
I actually address that as a personal involvement issue. He may not be personally involved with the county at all, but in theory could be indirectly benefiting, because indirect is a very general gray area. But I see that as a personal involvement issue. To me, it's more satisfying to know that he's not the one specifically addressing the county in any way. To me, that's a relevant factor.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like just
Yes, sir.
to underscore that although Ms. Bravo may not meet the 10% threshold under the ordinance, we do, in the recommendation, the second to last paragraph of the opinion, suggest that the Ethics Commission recommend that she still recuse herself from any decision that could affect Stantec, the company's.
Absolutely.
And that's something that we do from time to time, because granted the ordinance sets certain limits, but there are certain things known as appearances of impropriety, and in situations like that, although we can't mandate that somebody follow that recommendation, we can certainly point out that, we think it would be in the best interest of the county for her to
No, when I read
avoid.
that you would want to require her to have a sworn statement, this was.
That was a point that I wanted to make, that the code does require, for purposes of transparency, if nothing else, and also to perhaps address the appearance issues that our executive director is indicating, that even if a person does not have a financial interest, that they are still required to disclose their involvement with a company that is a county vendor. And that would be done under 2-11.1F, and it does require that an affidavit be filed with the clerk of the board. And of course, it is within our recommendations, given that it is required by the county ethics code.
And you would agree to do that, right?
Oh, yes, yes. I'm here to seek official guidance, to not run afoul of anything.
Well, that was my stance, that was intended, kind of like what my commissioner said, that was a leading question. And you got the right answer. But no, in all candor, it is very important to us to make sure that, especially section 2-11.1F is followed. Any other questions from the commission?
No.
And I'm sorry that our other commissioners are not present to address it, because my recollection was the same as Commissioner Schwartz, in that I know that we in particular have one other commissioner who may have had some additional questions.
I'm sorry I was a few minutes late, I came on the train.
Oh, no. It's not like she came and left, she's not here, so.
Take that up with transit.
Really? Okay. Anything else left to do on this issue?
You need to take action.
Oh, so we did the excellent ones.
I would ask that we table this until our two missing commissioners have the opportunity to review the tape of this morning's hearing so that they can vote on the matter as well, since they were the ones that had the greatest interest in asking these questions. I've done the best that I could to cover those questions for them, and I'd like them to be satisfied that they had the opportunity to hear it. Okay?
Is that okay with you, Ms. Brown?
That's fine, and I'm available to come back next month if
But
necessary.
first, we need a second to
I'll
that.
second to that. I mean, with the comment, they're not doing anything till December anyway, so there's no
Right.
harm, no foul. Why not? Why not? Makes sense.
All in favor of tabling?
Aye.
No opposition, so we'll go ahead and table it. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you for having me.
Very well. Our next order of business this morning will be the Miami Beach lobbyist appeals. Mr. Morris.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Commissioners. The first one on the list is Mr. Jean-Francois Gervais. And he's present here. Come on. Mr. Gervais, you can address the commission anytime you want.
Good morning, sir.
Yes, good morning.
There's a recommendation of a fine of $29,350. So what's your response to that? Other than I don't see you opening up a checkbook ready to pay, so I assume you.
I would like to apologize to the Commission for not understanding my responsibility to declare my income. It was my
I'm sorry, sir. Could you give us your full
Yes.
name and address, sir?
My name is Jean-Francois Gervais. I'm architect at International Design, Engineering and Architecture.
And where are they located?
20900 Northeast 30th Avenue, that's in Aventura.
Very well, sir, and I'm sorry, you were saying.
No problem.
As far as this issue.
Yes, I would like to apologize to the Commission for not understanding my duty to report annual income linked to lobbying activity in the city of Miami Beach. I had to register as lobbyist at the city of Miami Beach when I presented a design that we've done at 929 Anton Road. That was our first project. It has been our only project so far in Miami Beach, and I did not understand the requirement that was in place to report annually our income.
Are you the only architect there?
No, we're a firm of 10 architects.
Have any others worked in Miami Beach?
We have currently on the drafting table smaller projects that do not require attendance to public hearings. So far the only project that we have is that design of 19 apartments at 929 Alton Road.
So previously, before this project,
We never been
no other
involved.
architect that
No.
your firm worked
That's
for
correct.
the city of Miami Beach? Or had a project on the city of Miami Beach?
That is correct.
And you've never filed before as a lobbyist in the city of Miami Beach, is that correct?
That is correct.
Have you filed as a lobbyist in any other municipality?
No, I have not.
Sure.
Any other
I have a question. Do you Can you tell me why you had to appear before the commission? What is
It's a public hearing, so there's a development review committee that requires that every project over 50,000 square feet, that we're actually invited to present in front of an architectural committee what the project will be about. What I did not understand is that following that, I thought that after a year, my registration was just vanished, if you wish. But I didn't understand that I had to report my income, which was not done.
Did your firm hire attorneys to represent you?
Mr. Morosky, why don't you go ahead?
I'm just trying to clarify, because I see that there's in the file from the city of Miami Beach, the check for the lobbyist registration is for 2 people, and it's paid for by the law firm of Bills and Sundberg. So I'm assuming that the firm or somebody hired a lobbyist, a real lobbyist, who filed this, and then Mr. Gervais was just added on because the city requires the architects who are appearing to also register.
What's the name of the other person?
I don't have his name, I just have the firm's name. It's just a check here, but it says for 2 people.
Well, I can answer to this. The firm of Bills and Sundberg was hired by my client for representation of the same project. So I was asked to attend the architectural review committee to present the project. And it is correct that my initial registration was done through the office of Bills and Sundberg.
And did they have one of their lawyers registered as a lobbyist?
That's what it looks like, because they paid for 2. So in an abundance of caution, what they probably did was they registered him as well.
What's your recommendation, Mr. Morosky?
Typically, we waive first offenders who have never had any problems before with the city. I think a waiver is probably appropriate in this case.
Any other questions or comments from my fellow commissioners? Mr. Schwartz?
I don't have any questions.
Very well. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Gervais, for being here this morning. As far as moving forward, do I have any motions?
I move to waive the fine.
No second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none.
Thank you.
Fine is waived, sir.
Mr. Chairman, the next case would be Daniel, I can't pronounce this, Levinson,
Levinson.
and his attorney, Mr. Marrero, is here.
Good morning, Mr. Morero.
Morning, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. Mickey Marrero from law firm of Burke, Howard, and Fernandez at 200 South Biscayne Boulevard. Mr. Levinson unfortunately could not be here. He asked me to be here on his behalf. Some of the facts from the previous case relate here. They're a little bit different. I don't know if you have all the materials. Mr. Levinson is actually not typically a lobbyist, lawyer, architect in any sense of the word. He's actually the principal. But since the firm that he is the principal of was an LLC, he, in an abundance of caution, because he sat in on some of those staff meetings, registered as a lobbyist. It's the only time he's ever registered, and he's, again, wasn't doing the lobbying activities that we typically consider lobbying. He was sitting in on meetings and wanted to be very careful, so he did register. Again, he never registered before, and when the project was approved, and I didn't, in all fairness, I didn't work on that project. A partner at my firm did, but I've asked to be here today. Mr. Levinson, in his mind, was no longer registered. The project was concluded. Only almost 2 years later, when he got notice from the city that this fine had ballooned to $29,000, he realized that he failed to do the administrative thing of just saying he spent no money.
Does that mean that it took 2 years for him to get any notice from the city that he was missing something?
So I asked him about that. There is a letter about halfway through, May 1st, 2015, that was sent. I don't have a return receipt sent from the city. He claims to have never seen it. I've spoken to him several times, and I do believe his veracity on that. When he got the October 2015 letter, immediately, within a day, he filled out the form. There were 0 expenses. His lobbying activities amounted to about 2 hours total of just sitting in staff meetings with the attorneys and architects for his project. That is it. So it wasn't like he was thinking. For me, I register for many, many items in Miami Beach, and at the end of the year, or the fiscal year, my assistant goes through them with me. We respond, and in fact, I typically spend 0 myself, but it's just we know that we have to do this, and we send them all in a package, and lobbyists that do several cases a year know this process. Mr. Levinson has never done this, probably will never do it again, maybe one more project he might have on the beach in the future. He obviously learned his lesson, but it's certainly no intent here to not file something. There was 0 money spent, and it's the only time he's ever done it, and in fact, he was the principal for the project. So we would ask that you waive the fine in this case as well, like in the previous.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Are there any questions?
Just a quick informational question. The May letter that you referred to, what does it say? I mean, does it, at that point, is there a fine already imposed?
Yes, it says that there's a fine, and I have a letter here. It says that there's a fine, and he was given to him after the fact when his assistant went to request the file. He did not see it in May. Whether I can't tell you what
That's not
happened.
why I'm asking
Yeah.
anyway. I'm only just curious as to like, do they get a warning? Like, the first one it says, if you don't pay within, if you don't do this within 15 days, you will be fined? You would think that would, you would like.
They do.
Okay.
The city sends out warnings, I think they start in January,
Yeah,
and they send, they send follow-ups. What I'm looking at here, and I don't know the history of what happened here, but on the annual lobbyist registration form for Mr. Levinson, the address is South Ocean Drive in Hollywood Beach. And I noticed that the May 1st letter is addressed to Windward Real Estate, 21500 Biscayne Boulevard. So I don't know if that went to the wrong address or if it went to some other address.
that's
but
fine.
At least there's a possibility that it did.
Mr. Moore.
Well, again, I don't want to say something that I don't know for sure, but the address that
Certainly don't want to put you on.
the address that I have for the gentleman is not the one that the letter was sent to. I'm not saying that it's not an appropriate address, but that does certainly paint some color as to why he didn't see it. I can't tell you for sure that it's not an affiliated address, because I don't know, but it's not one that we, in our firm, have for him. It may have been someone that worked on the case other than him, I don't know.
We appreciate your candor. Thank you for that. Mr. Morosky, what's your recommendation, sir?
Again, Mr. Chairman, this is a first offender, and typically it's been our practice to waive those fines.
Move to waive.
Yeah, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none. Motion passes. Mr. Morero, Mr. Levinson's fine is waived.
Thank you all. Have a good afternoon, morning.
And
The next one is 1526 Green O'Brien.
Yes, also here represented
Present.
by Ms.
Kathleen Phillips.
Kathleen Phillips.
Good morning, Ms. Phillips.
Good morning.
I was thinking Kathleen Williams for a minute, but that's a different Kathleen.
It is a different criminal law. Good morning, Commissioners. Kathleen Phillips, Phillips, Richard, and Rind on behalf of Helene O'Brien. You have a summary of the case in front of you, and we concur with what's contained in that summary. Ms. O'Brien is not a lobbyist. She is a union organizer. The main office of the union is in New York. She operates, however, in a little office right around the corner here, actually, and did in fact go appear in front of the commission on Miami Beach, basically to discuss a living wage ordinance. That was it. She has never been a lobbyist before. Doesn't intend to be a lobbyist ever again, especially in light of the $8,500 price tag attached to this. She did fail to timely file her expense report. Again, that expense report, when it was filed, is zero. She had no expenses. There is now a political director down here who's handling all of their stuff. This is just not her area. It's a first-time offense, first time being a lobbyist. And the two notices that were supposedly sent to her did not go to her. They went to the New York address. The New York address is an address, a very large office building with a lot of union folks there, and she never got the two. And in fact, I just got them yesterday. Ms. Batista was kind enough to send it to me. She had gotten it from Miami Beach. And I don't know if you all have copies of it, but I can provide them to you. But they were directed to the New York address, not her Miami address. The notice of penalty went to the Miami address, and that's the correct address. So we would ask a waiver of the penalties, please.
Ms. Phillips, thank you for that presentation. Mr. Morosky, what's your recommendation?
That's correct. I would recommend the fine to be waived. We just noticed these yesterday because we just got the letters from the city yesterday that the two notices, one in January and one in March, were sent to New York.
And she's a first-time offender.
Yes,
That's right.
Move to waive.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none. Ms. Phillips, Ms. Helene O'Brien's fine is waived. Thank you for
Great,
being here.
thank you so much.
Mr. Chairman, I wonder if I could indulge you for a second. You might recall back in October, we had a Miami Beach lobbyist appeal involving a gentleman by the name of Jose Sanchez, and you, I believe, instructed him to, his defense was that somebody in the city told him he had to register or didn't have to register, and you instructed him to go back and try to find out, get some more evidence to bring. Turns out that Mr. Sanchez is here today. You want to hear from him today, or you want to put it on the agenda for next month? It's up to you.
Jose Sanchez is a very common name in Miami, and I do remember
Okay.
having a gentleman where I requested information, but again, it's not on the agenda this morning.
We can put it on for December.
We don't have any additional information on it, and I hate that the gentleman came here for that purpose, and certainly, I'm sure, wishes to be heard, but at this point, because it's not on our agenda, I think we will.
That's fine, we'll put it on the December.
So I apologize to Mr. Sanchez that we can't hear. Very well, the next order of business is the executive director's report.
Good morning, again, commissioners. We had our fourth annual Ethical Governance Day on October 22nd of this year, and I'm pleased to report that I think it was probably the most successful of these events that we've had. Once again, we had over 200 people that we arranged to appear in Miami-Dade County classrooms to talk on ethical government and a range of other issues connected to civic engagement. I wanted to, before talking about some of the specifics, I wanted to just say that I very much appreciate the staff support on this. This is a project that takes a lot of effort, particularly in the last several weeks before. Logistically, it's I think it could be called a nightmare, trying to make sure that people are assigned, trying to make sure everybody's happy with their assignments, and maybe dealing with people who have to cancel and get substitutes. And Ms. Roxandra Sanchez, our administrative officer, is here. You don't usually see her at these meetings, but I did ask her to be here because she along with Robert Thompson are the people who primarily deal with the logistical end of this project. And for several weeks, they're on the phone constantly. They're putting together the schedule. They're dealing with the schools. They're dealing with the speakers. And whenever I try to help, I'm usually told, "Get out of the way. Let us do this." And they did really an exceptional job. And I want to thank them personally, as well as the other members of the staff there. Pretty much everybody somehow contributes to this. Ms. Sibilia designed a new logo for us this year. She also was involved in promoting the event, and also went out and spoke at one of the schools, as well as Ms. Diaz-Greco, Mr. Penashev, who's here, contributed to that, as well as Robert Steinbeck. So whenever we need someone to step up and help out, it seems to happen, and it makes, I think, the entire agency look good. This is one of those events that I think we are in touch with more people on that day than we are at any other time. We'll note from the materials that we did give out the teacher award that the commission authorized to Ms. Inge Cruz, a teacher at the Bob Graham Education Center Middle School. I was there to present it, and we did this the second year we've done that, and this year it became a bigger event. I mean, we had several people from the school district that came to including an assistant superintendent. We had other people that also were involved in it. We had 3 elected officials, which you don't usually get, that attended the ceremony, and it was made into basically an assembly with all of the students that Ms. Cruz had. That was arranged by the principal. She had a reception afterwards, and I can tell you that it was very emotional. Her family was there, and there was a lot of appreciation expressed for having taken the time to recognize a single teacher in the school district who we felt made an extraordinary contribution to civic education. So we're going to continue with that program. We had Judge Soto, the chief judge, and we got a picture of her. She went to the Young Women's Prep. We had Justice Kogan, former Supreme Court Chief Justice, who participated at his alma mater, Miami Beach Senior High. In fact, I think they were competing to see who got Justice Kogan. We got a number of many emails. I included a few of them. with the materials to show that we've gotten an awful lot of good feedback from people involved in the program. So I think it's been successful, and we're going to continue to do that.
Let me just quickly comment on that. The staff, your staff does an exceptional job on that year after year. It really is a cornerstone of this community now. I get individuals who stop me and ask me when the next ethical governance day is. You guys have really knocked it out of the park with that. And I was just talking to a gentleman last week who happens to live in Miami Lakes, and he mentioned to me that he goes out and he speaks at high schools, and I started to talk to him about it, and I realized he was referring to the ethical governance days that he was referring to, and I told him, and he goes, oh yeah, that was it. That's the reason why I go out and I speak at high schools. So we're getting the community involved and making a difference and impacting children's minds and hopefully, giving them a little guidance on being on the right track in the importance of ethics and government. So thank you, and thank you to the staff that's here and those that aren't here. Please extend our thanks.
The honor code. This is was a proposal that originated in this with this commission about a year and a half ago, I would say, and it finally got final approval by the Miami-Dade County Commission on October 20th. So it is now officially adopted. There was their own resolution and implementing order for administrative purposes as well as an ordinance. So the Miami-Dade County now has an honor code for all of its officials and employees. That was the first step. Now the next step is to implement it, and we're already underway on that. I can tell you that a few things that we're working on to implement the honor code. We are going to the Internal Services Department Procurement Division has informed me that they're going to put in every county contract, every solicitation that goes out, they're going to put in some language referencing the honor code to all county contractors, with an idea that I think if contractors are aware that every county employee they interact with has their obligation to report wrongdoing, that may be a deterrent to some of the some people who might otherwise be interested in cheating the county. We're going to do basically a meeting with all of the ethics officers throughout the county. Every department is supposed to have an ethics officer, and I've always felt we didn't engage enough with those people. We're going to have a special meeting here with all of them. We're going to give them some training on the ethics code, on the honor code, and ask that they go back to their departments and spread the word on that. We're also going to include it in the refresher course for all county employees that is going to be put out by the first of the year. But the word is going to be out there, and we're going to continue to do what we can to impress on the county that the county has taken a step now toward greater integrity in government, and I'm hopeful that down the line this county will be recognized for having done something unusual in imposing that level of ethical conduct.
When did they vote on the code?
On October 20th.
And anybody vote against it?
No, it was unanimous. It was unanimous, and we were wondering about that, because nobody really said very
asked.
much, but it was unanimous. Nobody did vote against
It
it.
seemed that they fought tooth and nail, but then when push came to shove, everybody agreed.
There were many delays and for many reasons, but it finally did get in front of the commission for a final vote. So we were pleased by that.
Thank you for reporting on that. And the next enforcement of fines?
Regarding the enforcement of fines on K 14046, the mayor of Hialeah County who was fined, and also there was an imposition of costs amounting to a total of $4,000. Following a hearing that the commission will recall, we were concerned that there was going to be a no payment, and there hasn't been an actual payment yet. What did happen, and there was some media about this, was that Mayor Hernandez saw fit to deliver $4,000 in pennies to the commission office, which I will tell you that, and along with the gentleman that came in with about 20 or more buckets of change, There were several television cameras, obviously the media had been notified, and they were out there too, and the commission, we decided to not accept the fines. In fact, we did not let them into the office and asked that they leave. We did not engage with the media because I felt that that would just add to what seemed to be the creation of a circus atmosphere by the mayor. And so we declined that, and we have since then taken the step of filing an action in the county court. Mr. Borowski has filed a small claim action that will result in a hearing on December 9th, and we will then move to get these fines and costs paid in a proper manner, as well as any costs that we incur in pursuing that. So that's the status of the collection of fines from the mayor of Hialeah. And I already referred to the ethics refresher course. This began after I came into my position. The county proposed a requirement that the Mission on Ethics deliver an ethics course to all 20 to 25,000 county employees. We did it a couple of years ago, and we did it online, and it worked out, I think, fairly well. Now there's a requirement, of course, that there be a refresher course every 2 years, which is a different course. We have worked to put that together. We have just about finished completing the PowerPoint presentations, and we will have to contract with somebody to put it online in the format so that all county employees can be required to utilize it, and to pass the quiz that goes along with it. We will have to go out to bid for it, and I think it's going to cost probably about $38,000, something in that. And we have the funds for that because of some of the savings that we've incurred over the last year that they carried over to this year, so the funds are there to take care of that. So that's an important part of our training program overall, that county course, which is, I think, very unusual. I think it's an extensive course. It last time was three-hour course. This one will be probably over 2 hours, but it's still, I think, is one of the cornerstones of what we do in terms of ensuring accountability from all county employees. And that will conclude the executive director's report.
Thank you. Any questions of the executive director?
No.
Comments?
No, I have no questions.
Very well. Very well. Our next order of business would be the complaints in open session. We have 15-28, Thomas versus Whitehall.
Yes, this is the,
1528?
yeah, should be, it's in the background. This is just more of informational to you. This was one of the expedited procedure complaints that was filed during the election in Miami Beach. It was filed by J.C. Planas on behalf of Mr. Areola, who was running for commission seat, against Mark Whitehorn, who was running against him. It involved a television commercial that made reference to the fact that Mr. Areola had a police record, and that displayed a police report where it showed his social security number. It had not been redacted from that. So Mr. Planas filed a complaint on behalf of Areola alleging a violation of the mandatory fair campaign practices ordinance. We had an expedited hearing in front of Justice Kogan. Both sides presented their case, and Justice Kogan determined that there was no probable cause to proceed.
Thanks for reporting on that.
The rest of our cases are in closed session.
Yes. So I ask the public if you please.
I have a question, excuse me.
Yes, ma'am.
Do they have to affirm the expedited hearing? or-
I do not believe you have to affirm it because there was no appeal. No appeal's been filed. So,
That's my understanding.
So,